Good morning. This is my Sunday project, and I am amazed at both myself and at Claude Code. So if you've been following our channel here, you know we're working on Website-Garden, which is a tool where you can assign tasks to your employees, or you can use our freelancers, add paid tasks. And if you want to become a freelancer on our site, we're beginning to accept new freelancers now. What I just recently added is this capability. When I click Add New Task here, in the past, it's been my, like say, my employees and myself, but now I added on here Claude, and I created two of them, one for me and one for my other programmer, so we can each have our own threads going on here. And so I created a new task, and I told Claude what I wanted it to do. So right here, you see the task has actually already been done and approved. No, not I have to approve it, but Claude did it and did what's called delivering it so that the manager or the project manager can basically approve it. So let's see what that task was. Now this was a super simple one, but you have to start slow and then build up, right? So I created my task, and then I came down here and I created an activity. And the reason I wanted activities is I want Claude to be able to reply if he doesn't understand my question or my prompt here. So I'm going to try to give it one that's a little more complicated and make him reply in my next practice. So I just did something stupid here, create a new Python program called demotask.py, and I gave it the name of the directory. And this is assuming, though, that it's going to be running, well, you'll see in a minute. I'm running Claude Code on my machine. I told it to do this, and so it already had the context of where my code was on my current machine. So that's how it knows where to find this program. So I said, create a new program called this, copy the pattern of the starting documentation from this file, include a main section and a sample of a function that prints hello world. And I said, we will enhance this program more later. Okay. And so now how did I make all this work? Well, you got to understand skills. Okay. So to do this, I had to create a skill. And so what you see right here, originally I called it Claude skill underscore WG, which is website garden task handler dot. It's an MD file, a markdown file. This part here is YAML. And I actually asked Claude Desktop how to do this, and it gave me the example. I could have tried to create the whole skill inside of Claude, but I decided to just type it because I had to paste in some SQL and stuff like that. So here I said, rather than me typing in a prompt, you will get your prompt of what to do from a SQL query. Now let me point out here that this really needs to be what's called an MCP, was it Master Control Program? Whatever that stands for. And eventually we're going to have an API and use an MCP, because what I've written here will only work for me because I've got SQL commands in here that actually use certain codes and stuff, and so we can't open that up to the public, obviously. But this is just the first step to get there. And I say I will give you your prompt of what to do from you will get it from a SQL query. Once you have read the task, you will start the task, and I put that in quotes because that's going to be one of my skills here. Sorry. And then once you've done the work, you will deliver the task. And when you have a question, you will reply to the task. And then I said here to get the SQL connection for all the SQL commands below. I already got these in my config.json file in my Python project. So I just basically said, go here, and this is how you're going to connect. And we'll see what it did in a minute. It was pretty clever, but I also think I need to install the MCP for SQL Server as well. I said, get the next task to work on. So this is the command, right? It says, when I tell Claude to start or to get a next task, it should run this SQL. So right now, this is where I have these numbers embedded in here, and that's where we need to make it more fancy so that it will work for all our other customers in the future. And so here's just basically a SQL command that returns what it needs to know. And then I said, to start the task, once you get the task and have read it, show that you started it. So in our system, I can create a task, and then I can either assign it to a person, or the person can pick it up and say, I'm going to do it, and I started it. So basically, we're just setting an ID code, the current status of the task, to 2, which is the code for started. Then when he delivers the task, you basically just update the code to 4. Very simple, right? I said, when you have a question, this is what you need to do. So he's actually going to reply by creating an SEO activity. And then I put in here, how he sets the keys and stuff. And I said, here, you're going to substitute here. You're going to you never always use this number because that's like my Claude user agent number. And here, substitute something else. So he actually figured out how to substitute all this. And, you know, it basically worked the first time. And I'm just kind of like in wow mode right now. Okay. So now what did it do? So we already saw, just a second, you already saw that it was delivered. Let me show you that again here. So right here, it's already delivered and I can approve it. So see, it got it, it did it, and then it said I delivered it and it's ready to be approved. So now what did it do? To show you that now, I'm going to go to PyCharm, which is one of the IDEs from JetBrains that I use to do my Python. And here is that program it created called Demo Task. So if we open that, oh, it's already open. Yeah, no, that's not it. Just a second. Demo task. There it is. So it created demo task. It put the correct date in here even. And looky here, it says task number 667. That's actually the key in the database to the task that it picked up and did, which is incredible. Now, we don't show that task number on our user interface, but maybe we will in the future. It says this is a demo program initially created by the AI agent. And I told it to copy this comments at the top from another program. I think I gave it this program as an example. So basically, that's what it did. It just copied the comments over. And then I told it to do a hello world. Hang on, I got lost here. I'll go back to demo task. There's the hello world. It says print hello world. It's using the same logger that I use in all my other programs. So it actually it detected the pattern of how I'd like to do logging. And then it called the hello world. And I think it actually ran it and tested it. Okay. And then it delivered it. Okay. Now, delivered in the future, what I might also do is have it create a branch and then change the code in that branch and then do a commit and a push. But again, one little step at a time, right? So it wrote this program. Now let me show you the log inside of Claude Code. Again, I don't know, I'm just so happy this worked. I mean, it is so incredible. I'm going to go back to where I started it here. Okay. Here's where it came up. So here I said, I actually gave it my task. Oh, I got to show you where I put the task name in here. So I called my skill. My skill is called WG Task Handler. So WG is my short code for Hebrew Garden. Just a minute. So this is okay, here it is over here. So in my user ID of my computer, users, my ID / Claude, I have a skills folder. There was not a skills folder here before. And I thought at first I was just supposed to put the skill here. And so I put my file called WG Task Handler in this directory, and then it didn't work. And I actually had to ask Claude Desktop how to fix that, and it gave me the answer, and I was off and running again in a few minutes. So you actually create the skill name as a folder, and then in that folder, I guess you can have multiple MD files and whatever else you want to put in there, which is, I guess, that's probably a much better structure. And this is that skill file that I created. I also asked Claude Desktop if I could share a skill between Claude Desktop and Claude Code, and it said yes, but that didn't actually seem to happen, because to install this skill here, let me show you. This is Claude Code. I'm sorry, this is Claude Desktop, which is their slightly different than Claude Code, right? Here I went to settings, and then I went to capabilities, and I went down here to skills, and I added the skill here as well. So it's kind of like in two different places. And I guess you have to do that if you want both versions of Claude to be able to understand the skill. So now let's go back to here. Well, I'm back. My video recording software had a glitch, so I lost about 10 minutes of my recordings. So I have to redo it now for you. So now I'm over in Claude Code, and the first thing you do here is type /skills, and you can see here it says skills loaded, and it says there skill WG task handler. And it says, I will use this. I'll invoke the WG task handler to get the next task from website-garden.com. So it's basically just echoing the words out of my skill file there. So this was my only command here. I said, using WG task handler, the name of my skill, get the next task. I didn't even have to say do the next task, because that was all kind of buried in my skill, right? So it says, okay, I loaded the skill, and it says I'm reading one file. So I guess it's reading all the files in the skills directory. It only found one. But it's trying to understand what the skill needs to do. So it knows that it has to run a SQL command. And I don't have the MCP for SQL Server installed. That's going to be one of the other projects I need to do today. If I had that MCP installed, it probably would have just run the SQL command and gone out and executed it, right? Without having to write a Python program. But it says, well, you're doing everything in Python here, so I'm going to write a Python program to do it. So it actually wrote a program, a script or Python program to go read the SQL database. And it did a little looking around. It looked for some patterns and stuff. You know, sometimes it got errors, but it just kept going. I guess it figured out its own errors. So then here's the program that it wrote: get next task, or get next wg task.python. I go show you that in just a minute. And it's using the same type of logging that I use in my other programs. It actually detected that I have a connection string function in my common library, so it didn't even have to go get the SQL connection parameters. It was smart enough to figure that out, which again just totally amazed me. And then it did its like a try except here. It uses the connection string. This is the SQL command that I gave it in the skill file. And of course, this one had no substitutions. You'll see where it substitutes later. It does a fetch all, and of course, it's only going to return one row anyway. And then it says, this is what I found. And it just, most of it's just printing and stuff after that. So it says, do you want to create this? So I'm working on my skills.json. No, sorry, there's a file called the something.json, settings.json, where I'm going to tell it that you have permissions to do this, that, and the other, so it doesn't stop and prompt me for this, okay? Eventually, I want to have this like working overnight where we don't have to stop and be interrupted by it. It actually then tried to run it, and it had problems finding my Python directory. So I also put that in a JSON file too that said, let me show you that. Well, actually, I don't want to show you that file because I don't want the video software to screw up again on me. I'll put a picture of that. I'll overlay it when I do the editing of the video so you can see the command I gave it, so that next time it will find the Python compiler a lot easier. So here it says this task requires, okay, so now it read, actually, this is the data from the SQL database. So it says this task requires me to, and it numbers it like 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why 1 ended up over here. But anyway, create a new Python program called demo task py in the Hebrew Garden directory. Copy the pattern, include the sample section, and include a sample function that prints hello world. So that is his interpretation of what I put on the Hebrew Garden website. And it's almost word for word, but he actually just touched it up a little bit. And he says, let me first read the existing file to understand the documentation pattern. So now he goes and looks at the other program. He starts writing demo task. I told him to do a hello world, so he creates that. And then he says, do you want me to create it? I say yes. And then, so here is the program that it created, just parts of it. We'll show you the whole program in just a minute in PyCharm. And then it says, this program works perfectly. Now I need to deliver the task by marking it as delivered in the database. Let me create a script for that. So it knew it needed one script to do the pull down of the data and another script to update it, basically. So now it's writing a second program called deliver wg for website garden task.py. And this one is simply going to set the status code, which to 4, which is what I gave it in my skill file. And so it wrote that, and it says, can I save it? Yes, you can save it. And then here you see it says task 667 marked as delivered. And now he gives you the big summary. And next time I'm going to actually add to the skill that he should paste all this summary back into the task on the website. So he can do that by doing that reply function that we talked about earlier. So that'll be one of my next little enhancements to this. And it summarizes here the new files that it created. So it created the demo task py in the subdirectory I told it to. And that says that is the main deliverable. And it also created 2 little helper tasks that it needed to do the work that it needed to do. So now let's go look at that in PyCharm. Now in the future, I'm going to have it also probably create a branch, and then he can make the changes in the branch, and then he can do a commit and push of his branch, and then the project manager can then choose to accept it and merge it and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is the demo task that it created right here. And so at the top of the program are the comments that I said, I want you to copy from another program. So it basically used this program, was the one I told it to use as an example. And so it took this little I call it, what do you call it, a comment block or whatever, and it put the exact same thing in here. Wrong program. And notice the author is not me, it's Claude Agent. And it says task 667. That is actually the SQL ID number of the task that it pulled off of Website Garden. And I think that's pretty cool. Next time I might have him actually put the full description there. And I think we need to add the 667 number to be displayed on our website, because right now we don't actually display that task number. It's really just an internal number used by SQL. He got the date right, of course. So this is February 1st. He actually put a comment here. This is what it is. This is my structure. And then he wrote the hello world function. And then he called it here with the hello world. And he actually did logging, logger.info, just like I do in all my other programs. So that's pretty cool that he did that. And then he said he wrote two other programs. So this is red because it's not added into the GitLib yet, right? I have to do like here, I have to say, it's going to be off the screen, but you're going to say git plus add, and then that's going to be able to check it in next time I do a commit, if I want to commit this. I really don't want to commit that one. But these other two, I might let it commit. So it wrote these two programs. And again, if I had the MCP for SQL Server on there, I don't think it would have had to have written these. So one that says deliver, let's do this one, get next task. So it basically here, let's look at the imports. It did import PyODBC. And then this amazed me too, that it figured out that I had a common function library. I guess it looked at my other programs and says, oh, well, you even have a function called get SQL ODBC connection string. So of course, then all my secret parameters of how to get to SQL are all hidden in this program, which is good, right? And it did the standard logging again. It runs the SQL command that I gave it, and notice this returns top one. So it gets the highest, most important task that it needs to work on, and then it basically prints this stuff to the console, which is just documentational, right? Oh, then it says I started it. So that's pretty cool. He didn't even write a separate program for that. He automatically changed the task to started as soon as he read it, which is what I told him to do. And then it commits the update there to SQL. And then this is just the main program where it runs that. And then if we do oh, well, there's one more thing I'll show you here in a minute. If there are 0 task returns, what does it do? What does it do if there's no task to do? It says, hey, no task found, no pending task found for my user agent, okay? So we'll actually test that in a minute. And then we'll look at the deliver task. It's the same SQL structure, basically, PyODBC, same connection string. And really all he does here, he sets it to the status code 4, which is our task ID for deliver. It's our code in our database for being delivered. So that was all pretty cool. So I'm going to go back to Claude Code, and I want to do one more test. I want to see if it will use the Python files that it created a while ago to do the SQL work that it did. So here I'm just going to say Claude. And just again, I'm going to show you the skills command, which maybe I didn't do earlier. That shows my skills there. So I'm going to say using WG task handler to get next task. And I also want to see if it handles the case where there are no tasks available. Okay. So it seems to read the SQL config file first. Now it says, let me check if there's a Python script ready to do that. And sure enough, it finds get next WG task. Now it says, basically, do I want to proceed and do what? I think just do I want to run it, basically. So I'll just say yes for everything here. Okay, and that worked. It had to try 3 different things. So somehow I still need to do a little tuning on my system so it can more easily find where Python 3 is found on my disk. It doesn't seem to be able to figure that out on its own, but it just kept trying. Something didn't work, something didn't work, something didn't work, and then it finally found something that worked. So now it says I'm running that get next task. And then here's the logger information from it. And now it says the query found no pending task assigned to agent user 138, my Claude AI agent, with status unstarted or started. There are currently no tasks available in the WG website garden system for me to work on. The database query successfully connected and executed, but no return results. This could mean blah, 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 blah. So basically, yeah, I figured out I didn't give it anything to do. So I will continue developing this. And again, I'm just really happy that it worked as easily as it did. And, I think I got this working in like less than an hour. So I'm just like bumfuzzled. Is that the word? I'm just impressed and shocked that this was, as easy as it was. So look forward to what we're doing in the next website garden videos. And let me show you one last thing. This is basically our Scrum schedule, right? So this is our current priorities and task. If there's something I want to change the order of, for instance, I can move it up or down just that easily. I can reprioritize stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is actually build a public user API for our clients so that they will be able to work with the task like what we're doing with SQL here. And then the next step after that was I'll make my own MCP that uses my own API, right? So that Claude code will be able to work directly and not have to go through these little Python programs and stuff and kind of these silly SQL commands. It's still to be using SQL, but that'll all be done in our API level rather than having SQL code and exposed user codes and stuff like that on the client's machine. So we got a lot more work to do, but just remember that in the future, you're going to be able to come here and you're going to add a task to a real person, to an AI person, or you can say add a paid task and you can have a freelancer, one of the freelancers on our site, do it for you. So it's going to be a powerful system. I look forward to working with you in the future.